Hello, boys and girls. How are you? Yes, it is Mr. Broussard again. Yes, it's me again. And we are ready for what? To do a science lesson, of course. That's what we always do. So let's get started. So, just to do a quick recap of last lesson, we discussed energy, discussed natural resources, right? And how living organisms get the energy that they need, maybe not straight from the sun, but in a way we get all our energy from the sun. And also we talked about cars, or really any other machine requires some sort of energy to move. And specifically we talked about gas and where gas comes from, right? So today we're going to start specifically with that. But before we get into where gas comes from, I want us to look at the learning target, okay? So our learning target today is I can explain what fossil fuels are, how they form, and also provide examples. So what are fossil fuels? How do they form? And what are some examples of fossil fuels? That's the target for us today. To get us thinking, I want you to open a document that is titled Fossil Fuels Diagram. Let me show you what it looks like. So open this document, okay? It's just a photo. It's not really a photo, it's a diagram. And it is this diagram, okay? So where you see that it says trapped gas and trapped oil, both of those two things are fossil fuels, okay? You see it? Trapped gas, trapped oil, and all of that is way, way deep in the earth. So I want you to pause the video, keep looking at that picture, keep looking at that diagram, and just think about how do you think that gas and that oil, okay, where gasoline is made from, how did it get there? Think about that. How did it get there? How did that gas and that oil, how did it get there? So pause the video and think about that and take a few notes in your notebook and write how you think it got there. So how did it get there? I'm not going to tell you. We're going to explore together. We are going to watch a video and we're going to read an article. And that is exactly what we're looking for. That's what we're exploring. How did fossil fuels get there? How did they form? And what are they? What are they? Because we know them. This is just a fancy name. We know them. And what else did the learning target say? How did they form, what they are, and some examples of fossil fuels, okay? So that's exactly what we're going to be looking for. So first, I want you to watch the video, okay? So the link is titled Fossil Fuels Video, all right? So click on that, and the video should look like this. Let me show you. So it's this video, okay? You see it? So watch that video. And remember, we're looking for the answer to the questions, what are fossil fuels, how do they form, and some examples of fossil fuels, okay? So as you watch the video, pay attention to those things. So now you're gonna pause my video and watch that one, okay? So are you getting a better idea of what fossil fuels are and how they formed? Pretty interesting, huh? I mean, when I first learned about that, I was just like, oh my goodness, this is just weird. Weird, but I mean, it makes sort of sense. But anyways, I don't want to tell you too much because this is your job. Now I want us to read the article, okay? So click on the document titled Fossil Fuels Article, okay? It looks like this. And it has some pictures of different fossil fuels there, okay? Remember, we're looking for examples as well. So it's kind of long, but it's not super, super long. You see it? I am going to start reading with you, and then you're going to be left on your own, okay? Because I cannot read all the articles for you. We're in fourth grade. We are looking for information, exploring, so it is your job to do that, right? But we're going to start reading the article together. So, fossil fuels. A fossil fuel is a natural substance formed from the buried remains of ancient organisms that can be used as a source of energy. Ding, 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 ding. That's the answer to the question that we're looking for, right? That is the answer to the first question. What are fossil fuels? Fossil fuels formed over millions of years as heat and pressure from layers of sediment change the decayed organic remains into materials such as coal and petroleum. The energy in fossil fuels is the energy from sunlight stored in the tissues of the buried organisms as a result of photosynthesis. And there is din din din, that's the other answer that we're looking for, which is how did they form? I want to make just a quick stop here. So remember, last lesson we talked about how living organisms eat food to have energy. So when they die, guess what? When they died millions of years ago, that energy that they stored now was changed to fossil fuels. So it's like grabbing just pure energy now. So now that the living organism is completely gone, that energy that they had in their bodies was left down there. And we can use it now to fuel our different machines, like cars, trains, planes, and other things like that. Cool, huh? Let's continue to read. Second paragraph. Fossil fuels usage has steadily increased since the Industrial Revolution. At the start of the 21st century, fossil fuels comprised nearly 90% of the world's energy supplies. However, fossil fuels are non-renewable resources because it takes millions of years for fossil fuels to form. They cannot be replaced when they are used. And we're going to talk about that next lesson, but just know that it takes millions of years for fossil fuels to form. Millions of years for them to form. So it's not just when an animal dies and all of a sudden, poof, poof, fossil fuels are formed. Takes millions and millions and millions of years after the organism dies for that energy to be transformed into a fossil fuel. Let's go to the third paragraph. Fossil fuels may be solids, liquids, or gases. All fossil fuels are hydrocarbons, a class of chemicals composed only of carbon and hydrogen atoms. Coal, petroleum, and natural gas are the most commonly known fossil fuels. Din, din, din. Those are some examples of fossil fuels. Now keep reading the rest of the article on your own. So pause the lesson and keep reading the article, okay? So are we keeping track of the learning target and what we are supposed to be learning right now? The video and the article. They had all the information that we needed. Let's review that learning target one more time to make sure that we are right on track. So I can explain what fossil fuels are, how they form, and also provide examples. Okay, so those are the things that you are supposed to be answering from the article and from the video, okay? So let's discuss a little bit what are the steps for these fossil fuels to form, okay? So for that, I put 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 and 6, okay? It is very, this is the first time that we're looking at it, so it's not with a lot of details, but it is kind of what happens, okay? If you look over here, you see that the first thing is organisms ate food for energy, right? We know that organisms eat food for energy. That comes from the sun. Then organisms died. Number 3, they had energy stored in their bodies. When they died, they had energy there. And then at first, it's just living organisms and water, mixed together. They are kind of like a mixture, Then a lot of pressure, pressing down and pressing down and pressing down over millions of years is applied to all that mixture. And then finally, it becomes hard and fossil fuels are formed from those remains. They are not remains, they were formed from the remains. So it's not like a fossil, that a fossil is actually a remain. This is just the animals became, or the plants, the living organisms, became a fossil fuel, became different forms of fossil fuel, like coal or crude oil or gas. It's sort of like this, you see? The plants, they come down, they become peat over here, and then pressure, more pressure, and more years and more years and more years until this black end over here, right? And that is coal. So it goes from here, 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 and then finally is the coal, which is the fossil fuel that we use to power our machines. Now, I want to check if you actually understood, okay? From the video, from our discussion, from the article. And let's say that a kindergarten student came to you and said, I heard this word, and I heard it's fossil fuel. Can you tell me what it is? So they're kindergarten students, so you have to explain things very easily for them, and maybe sometimes even draw pictures, right? So what I want you to do is pretend that a kindergarten student came to you and asked you what fossil fuels are, okay? And now your job is to explain to this kindergarten student what fossil fuels are, how they were formed, and where they are found, okay? So now I want you to write in very simple words, very, very simple words, as if you were talking to a kindergarten student, what fossil fuels are, how they were formed, where they're found, and give them some examples of what fossil fuels are. So one more time, write down an explanation, pretend that you're talking to a kindergarten student of what fossil fuels are, how they were formed, where are they found, and some examples. Okay, so fossil fuels, not fossils, but fossil fuels. So how do you do? If you could not explain it well, then you can always go back to the article, reread it, go back to the video, watch it again, so that you can write there a really nice, clear, simple explanation of what fossil fuels are, okay? I hope that you did a wonderful job. And there is one more thing to do before the lesson is over. Now I want you to click on the document titled Lesson Evaluation. Click on that. It looks like this. It is 5 questions, okay? 5 questions. They're multiple choice. So these questions are from the previous lesson and for this lesson. So this is going to let you know if you actually understood those 2 lessons. So this is what we call an evaluation or an assessment. This will let you know, oh yes, I've understood these lessons. I can answer these questions correctly, okay? So pause the video and answer those questions. So how do you do? Here are the answers for number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, and number 5. And that is the end for our lesson today. We are able to explain what fossil fuels are, how they were formed, where you can find them, and give some examples of fossil fuels, okay? And next lesson is going to be about energy that is renewable and non-renewable. Renewable and non-renewable. We're going to find out what fossil fuels are in that list, okay? So I will see you next time. Bye-bye. Have a great day.